Hello everyone and welcome to Mathematics. So this video will focus on everything you need to know for this chapter from chapter 4 logarithms. Alright, so all the examples will be from actually it's last year's trial paper or 2023. Okay, and for this chapter I'll only do one video to summarize everything. Alright, so before we go to the questions, let us list out the things we need to know first. Alright, so for the first tip is to familiarize yourself with the formulas given as usual. So in the formula sheet there will be 4 formulas given. Right, so if we focus on the first two, if we have values multiplied or divided, if you want to separate them, we can use plus if it's multiplied, divide if it's minus. Right, so the other way around, if we want to combine the values together, if we have plus, we need to multiply the values. If it's minus, we need to divide the values, right? And for the next formula is for the power here, we can move it to the front, or for this n at the front, we can move it back. And for the last formula here, this is to help us to change the base, right? So for the value b, I'll put it at the top, a, I'll put it at the bottom, and for the value of c here depends on the question lah, right? So it can be 10, it can be 2, or it can be base e, and so on. For the second tip I could share is how do we change from the index form to log or log to index, right? So let's say if you want to change from log to index, what we need to do is to just move this a, which is the log's base, to the other side. Okay, just push it to the other side. So a will be on the right side and the x will become the power. So if you want to go the other way around, the a, I want to push it back to the base for log. Alright? But the main tip I would like to share is this one, the 3 main steps to solve any kind of logarithm questions. Alright, so here the first step is to change the base. So to change the base, what we do use is this formula, the last one. Okay, and the second step is to manipulate, or in other words, to simplify. So to simplify, we can use these 3 formulas. Okay, so you all may be wondering why is it not these 3 first, then only go to this one, this formula. Okay, reason is because for 5, 6 and 7, if you realize, all the base are the same. So these formulas only work if the base is the same. So if the base is not the same, we need to change it first. Okay, so which is why this formula comes first. This is the first step. And then the second step, we have the same base already, and then we manipulate. Okay, so once we manipulate, we go to step 3, which is to change the form. Okay, so sometimes we simplify already, we are stuck at one form, and we want to simplify further. So what we can do is use this. Okay, from the log form to the index form. But sometimes it may be index changed to log, so this depends on the question lah. Okay, and then there is one more step I will share, but this isn't related to the first 3. Okay, so this is apply. So let's say we have this question here, e to the power of x equals to 10, and we need to find the power, which is x. Okay, so this kind of question we can apply log for both sides. So here what I will choose is log base e, okay, because the value here is e. Okay, so sometimes we need to apply log for both sides to further solve the question. And another 2 things I like to share y'all is this one. So if you see that the base and the value is the same, this will be 1. And if the value is 1, regardless of any kind of base here, the value will be always 0. Alright? Alright, so the first few questions here, it asks us the same thing. We are given the log equation here, and it tells us to express something in terms of something. Okay, so here we can use the 3 main step method lah. So the first step is to change the base, but this one we can see that the base is the same, so we can skip the first step. Okay, but now what we can do is to move those with have log to the left side, those without log to the right. Okay, reason is because we can manipulate. or to simplify this, right? So what you can do is this one, the 2 I can move it to the back, and since this is plus, I can combine these two values by multiplying them together. Okay, so this one is the log form, and it is simplified already or manipulated already. So now we need to use the third step, which is to change the form. Okay, so from the log to the index form to further simplify, right? So the base here, I can move it to the right side. Okay, so it will be something like this. So the 3 here, it will be the power, right? So now if we go back to the question, it says express y in terms of x, so everything which is not y to the right side. Okay, so now I'll pause a few seconds to let you all try out the other 3 similar questions. So I hope you all have tried out the questions. Okay, so for the Terengganu and Melaka question, if you look at their base, they are different. Okay, so how to change the base effectively? So I would like to share you all some tips. So the first one would be, usually I would recommend students to change the large base to the small base. So for example, for this one, I would like to change 9 to 3. Okay, and another tip is I would change those complex base. So later I will share what is the example of complex to more simple base. Okay, so going back to these two questions, we need to change the base 9 to base 3 using the first step. Okay, as you can see here. So now you can see that 3 and 9 here, okay, so these two values, they have a relationship, right? Because 9 can be expressed as 3 power of 2, right? And then this 2, I can move it to the front. So here will be something like 1 over 2. Okay, this is actually a 1 over 2. Then for this value, since the base and the value is the same, so this one will become 1. Same goes to this as well. So the base for all questions now are the same, so we can use step number 2, which is to manipulate, right? So here what we can see is, for this one, the value is 2, so this is actually 1 over 2 lah. So 1 over 2, I can move it to the back, so here will be something like this, and this is minus, so to combine them, we can divide. Okay, for the Negeri Sembilan question, we move all the logs to the left side, and then this 2, I can move it to the back, so it will be y power of 2, and again this is minus, so combining them, we need to divide. And for the Melaka one, for the value 2, this is also 1 over 2, so move it to the back, k here would be k power of 1 over 2, and since this is plus, combining them, we need to multiply. Right? So now everything is simplified or manipulated, so we can use the last step, which is to change from log to the index form. So all of the base will be moved to the other side, as you can see here. Right? So now according to the question respectively, you can see that here express b in terms of a, so everything which is not b to the right. Negeri Sembilan is everything which is not y to the left side, and sorry, to the right side. And for the Melaka question here, it doesn't say anything, it just say in terms of p and k, so we can remain it as this way. Alright, so let's look at more examples. So here we have from Sabah, and for part A, we need to solve this question. So e3x plus 2 equals to 10. So if you see, the x that we need to find is at the power side. So what we need to do is to use the bonus step, which is to apply log for both sides. So the base I will choose is e. Okay, so why I need to follow the value here? Right, reason is because if I move 3x plus 2 to the front right, so we will have log base e, which we know that base and value, if it's the same, we can just eliminate this to become 1. Right? So I have simplified the equation already. So now we have only left x here, and then we can move everything which is not x to the right side. So it will be this, and we just plug this into the calculator, you will get the value. Right? And for the next two questions, I will explain concurrently because these two questions' way of answering is the same. Okay? So if we look at these two questions, the base is different, right? So for this one, I will change large base to the small base. So this one will be 9 to 3. And for this one, this is the one I titled just now, the complex space. So if we compare P and square root P is more complex, right? So what I will do is complex change to the more simplified one, which is P. Okay, so let's use step number 1 to change the base, as you can see here. So here the 9 again, it will become 3 to the power of 2. 2, I can move it to the front, and then the base and the value is the same, so everything here becomes 1. So same goes to this one as well. The square root here, I can change it to 1 over 2. 1 over 2, move it to the front. And the base and the value will be the same, so this will be crossed off, change it to 1. Right, so the simplified version will be something like this. Okay, so here 1 divided by 1 over 2, this will become 2, and then here we can simplify further, so this will become 2. Right, so now all the bases are the same, we can simplify or manipulate it. So the value 2 here and the value 2 here, you can move it back, right? So it will be something like this. So here we don't need to use the third step because both of the sides, if you see, both of them have log. So what we can do is to just cross off the log. Just cross off, because we just want to compare the values inside the log. Okay, to find the value of x. Okay, so for the Sabah question, this one we will find it is a quadratic equation, so we need to factorize, and we have two answers, 2 and -1. But this one we reject because if we sub -1 back to the denominator here, we will get log base 9, 1. So just now I have mentioned, regardless of any kind of base, if the value is 1, this will become 0. So you can imagine this one is 0 already, which is undefined, which is don't have the answer, right? So we need to reject this answer lah, x equals to -1. So the answer will be 2. Right, and for the Kelantan one, this one would be much more straightforward. So if you simplify it, you will have left x equals to 2 over 3, because the x power of 2 here will be crossed off. For some questions, it will give us some log equations, as you can see here, or some index questions, as you can see in this Selangor question. Okay, so you can see here, right, the values, we need to change it to the unknowns. So here we have two values, we need to change it to the unknowns h and k, right? So the first thing we need to do is for decimals, let's change it to fraction first. Okay, so for the 3.6, let's change it to 18 over 5. Right, reason is because we can split these values like 18 and 5 to some values. Okay, so those values are actually from here 3, 5, and another value is actually 2, because the base is 2, which we know base 2, this will become 1, right? So we can split into these three values, 3, 5, and 2. So for 18 and 270, I will split it in this way. Right, so you all may be wondering, how do I split this? Right, so actually it's trial and error lah. Okay, so this one for the 18, I tried with 5 first, but if I use 5 to split, the other value will be a decimal. Okay, so we cannot use this one. So if 5 cannot use, so I'll just skip to 3. Okay, so if I use 3, 18 divided by 3 is 6, correct? So this 6, then I can further split. So it will be 3 and 2. So this is how I got the values, 3, 3, 2. And for 270, also trial and error as well. So I used 5 first. So here 270, if I divide by 5, this would be 54. Then I further split using the values 3 and 2 lah. Okay, so by doing this split, I will get this. So 5, and we have triple 3s and 2. Okay, so now once we have this one already, we need to further split, correct? So because everything here is now combined together, so multiply, if we split, to use plus, divide, if you want to split, use minus. Okay, this is the second step that to just manipulate and simplify. Right, so here we have two trees, so I will combine them to 3 to the power of 2, and then this 2 later on I will move it to the front. Okay, and here we have one value of 2 and one value of 5. For 270 here, since we have triple trees, so 3 to the power of 3 lah, and again this 3 I can move it to the front, so it will be something like this. So now according to the equations that they give, we need to change this log base 2 3 to h, log base 2 5 to k, right? So it will be something like this. Alright, so now I will pause a few seconds to let you all try out the Selangor question. Alright, so I hope you all have tried out. So as you can see here, we have the base value here, which is 5. The log base value is 25, which is not the same. Okay, so let's change using the first step. Change the base from 25 to 5. Okay, and then now this is combined, so I need to split it. Okay, so multiply is plus, divide is minus. And for this 25, I can change it to 5 power of 2, and the 2 I can move it to the front. So log base 5, this can be changed to 1. And the value 2 here, I can move it to the front. So now if you can see here, we have all the logs, but here it gives us the index form. So let's change these two from the index form to the log form. Okay, so here if you want to change from index to log, again the 5 we need to push it back. Push it back to the log base, which is log 5s. Same goes to this one. 5, push it back, log base 5t. So now you can see that this part, log base 5s, is actually a. Right? And this log base 5t is b. So let's change it. Okay, so it will become something like this, and divide by 2. This is our final answer. So what I realized in this year's trial paper, I saw there are some questions asking students to prove the formulas inside the formula sheet. For example, this one, as you can see in Perlis and Pahang question, it tells us to prove this formula, which is in our SPM formula sheet. Okay, so how we need to prove this kind of formulas is, okay, the first step, let's focus on the things on the left, right, left side of the formula, and then just focus on the value x divided by y. Okay, and then for the x and y, let's change it according to here, which is x will become a to the power of p, y will become a to the power of q. Right, and then these two values I can combine them. So this is divide, so if I combine, I can minus these two powers lah, so it will be p minus q. Okay, then I simplified already. Then what I will do is look at the differences between here and here. Now we have only left with log base a, right? So here we apply log for both sides. Okay, and then here I can further simplify, so the power I can move it to the front, a here, so this one will become 1. Okay, so here we have only left p minus q, and now if you compare this equation with the formula with which we need to prove, we have log here, but this we don't have. Okay, so this is like the index form, we need to change it to the log form. Okay, so what we need to do is, for these given equations, let's change it to the log form, because now this is in the index format. Okay, so to change it to the log form, let's just push these base values to the left, and let's add log here. Alright, so it will be something like this. So as you can see, p will become log base ax here, and q will become log base ay, just here. Right? And then we have proved the formula. Okay, so once we prove the formula already, then they will ask us to, okay, hence show that this is equal to this. So it means we need to use this formula to solve this equation lah. Okay, so for Perlis paper, for part B here, we need to prove this one. So this one we have the base is 4, this is 2, so let's start from the part which has a larger base. Okay, so later on we can change from the big base to the small base, right, as you can see here. So the value 4 here, I can change it to 2 to the power of 2, move it to the front, and for this one, since this one is divided, if we want to separate it, we can use the formula that we have proved just now. Okay, so it will become P minus Q, and this one will become 1, this one will cross off, and then we will find this one, which is the thing we need to show. Alright, and for the Pahang question here, it's also say hence without using calculator, find the value of this one. Okay, so let's use the formula from here to solve this. Okay, so this one is just very straightforward lah. This is minus, so we just need to divide the values. 54 divided by 6 divided by 3, and you will get the value of 3, and again the value and the base, right, the base and the value is 3, so the final answer would be 1. So for the Negeri, Sembilan and Perak question, we need to prove another formula which is inside the formula sheet, but the technique will still be the same, right? So let's go to the left side and let's focus on the value only, which is the m. Okay, so here it gives us the m equals to a power of x, so let's write it here, and then let's compare the equation that we have on the left with the formula that we need to prove on the left, right? So here there is an n, so let's apply n for both sides. Okay, and then let's apply log base a for both sides as well. Okay, so now you can see that this xn, I can move it to the front. This value will become 1 because the base and the value is the same, right? So now if you compare this nx with the formula we need to prove, this is n log base am. Okay, so this is x, which is the index form, this is the log form, right? So we need to change this, right? So we can use this one, okay, this one, and then let's move the a to the left, and we add the log here, so it will become x equals to log base am, which you can see here. And with that, we have proved the question. Right, so if you want to do the Perak question, what we need to do is just replace the x with p and replace the m with x, and the steps will be exactly the same. And for the MRSM question, we need to prove this equation, but this one will be more straightforward because if you can see here, this one we have a base a, this one we have base b, right? So let's change from base a to base b for this part. Okay, so for this one, let's use the formula that we have learned, right? So the value b here, I'll put it on top, the value a, I'll put it at the bottom, and for the new base, I will put b. Okay, so here this value will become 1 because the base and the value is the same, so our final result will be 1 over log base b a. Right, so the usage of this formula, right, is actually if we want to change the positions of a and b, what we need to do is, once we change already, as you can see here, we need to add a 1 over. Okay, 1 over. So example, if we have log 3, 4, if you want to change the positions of 3 and 4, we need to 1 over log 4, 3. Okay, so let's use this technique to solve the next question. Okay, so now as you can see here, we have different bases. One is b, one is a. So the first step is to change the base, right? So here what we can do is use this technique to change the base, because here we have a b and here we have a. So if we switch the place, it will be something like this. Okay, but let's move this 2 to the front first because I don't want the square to be in here as well. Okay, so this 2, let's move it outside, sorry, to the front, and then we use this formula to help us change these 2 places. So this one will become b over a, and the 1 over will be removed, right? Because we are going from here to here. Alright, so the square root here will become 1 over 2, then I move it to the front, so here will be 3 over 2. And then you can see that the log both have the same base, both have the same value, so we can minus them together, which will get this one. For this question, it's actually a third question, but I would like to focus on this one, part B, because it's quite special, and this is the only question that mentioned this special thing. Okay, so let me just briefly go through part A lah. Okay, so this one is a third equation, so we need to simplify to find the values of A and B. So what I will do is first simplify this one. Okay, so I will multiply its conjugate. Conjugate means that if this is minus, I need to multiply the exact value, but this one I need to change to plus, right? So if you simplify, you'll get this value. Okay, so this is the value on the right. Then I need to move the square root to the other side to find the values of A and B. Okay, so here I will get A is 11, B is 6. So for part B, we need to solve this thing. Okay, so let me move the 2 to the back first. Okay, to the back, it will be something like this. Then let me change the log to become this one, log base E. Okay, so if you see that the value and the value's power log's base, which is E, is the same, we can use this formula. So if you can see here, if these two values are the same, we just take the value x as our answer. So this means x is a power of 2, so our answer will be a power of 2. Same goes to this one, which is b power of 2. Then I just substitute the values which I got from part A, sub it here to get the answer, which is 157. Okay, so you all may be wondering, where does this formula come from? It's actually from this. Okay, log base ax equals to log base ax, correct, right? But how do you get this to become this one? Right, so let this value as y. Okay, so this is the log version, right? So now let me change to the index form. So the index form means I move the a to the other side, correct? So it will be a power of y x, right? And then let me substitute back the value of y, which is log base ax. Okay, as you can see, this and this is the same. Okay, so where does this come from? It's actually come from this. Just need to change the form, then we will get this one. Alright, so let's go through some K-part questions. Okay, so for SPP, we have this graph. So this graph is the y equals to a power of x graph, and then here we need to sketch the graph for this line, which is y equals to log base ax. Okay, so this one is the index form, this one is the logarithm format. Right, so this is a fact that you need to know, which is the index and the log is actually inverse of each other. Okay, inverse of each other. So to draw the inverse version of this line, we need to use y equals to x as our mirror, and we draw the image. So this image would be y equals to log base ax. Right, so this is for part 1. And for part 2, we need to give a justification for the sketch. So means what is the conclusion that we can find from this diagram. Okay, so we can say that y equals to a power of x is inverse of this function. Right, so if you want to memorize, that would be a bit hard for you to accept. So I will just use the chapter 1 functions way to inverse this equation, and let us see if the result we will get is this or not. Okay, so let me use the chapter 1's way. Right, so here I will let y equals to f of x and f inverse of y equals to x. So for this second one, I just move the f to the other side. Okay, so let's start off with this one, y equals to a power of x, and then let x as the subject. Okay, so if you want to pull this x to the front, we need to have log, correct? So both sides we need to apply log, and the base I will use a. Right, reason is because the value here is a. So what I can do is pull this x to the front, this value will become 1. Okay, and we'll get this one, and then we use the second let, substitute x with f inverse of y. And for all the y's, let's change it to x, and you can see that this is actually the same as this. So this proves that this equation ax is inverse of this. Alright? And for part B, it's actually a solving question, but firstly we need to simplify it first, right? So let's use the 3 main steps method lah. So for this one, we have different bases, so let's change the base to be the same. So 9 to change to 3. So here 9 can be 3 power of 2. 2 move to the front. This value will be 1. Okay, so here will be 1 over 2, and then I can move this 2 to the front, so it will cancel off lah. So this one, if you want to combine the values, because both of them has the same base and this is minus, so we do divide. Okay, so this is using the step 2 method lah, manipulate or simplify. And for the second part, we need to solve the equation. Okay, so let's use the end result from part 1 and we just substitute here. Okay, equals to minus 1. So this is already simplified. Now we do use the last step, change the form. So move the base to the other side. Okay, and we simplify, we will get the answer. Alright, the last question of this video. So here we have a temperature of a solution is in Celsius after being cooled is around this value. Okay, so it is influenced by the value T lah. Okay, T minutes after it's being cooled. So let's find the initial temperature of the solution, which means the beginning of this experiment lah, which is T equals to 0. Alright, so here for part 1, we just sub T with 0. Okay, and we'll find the answer, which is 30 Celsius. And for part 2, we need to find the value of T when the temperature is 15.36. Okay, so let's equate this value with this value here to find the value of T. So let's move 30 to the front, and the T. Okay, so this one is at the power position, so we need to move this T to the front. So what we need to do is apply log for both sides. Okay, so this LG is actually log base 10 lah. Okay, so this is the most common log that we can use. Okay, so this one we applied already. T move to the front, then I can move this value to the right. Okay, and then apply using calculator find the value, which is 3. And for the third part, we need to calculate how many minutes after the temperature is less than 5 Celsius for the first time, right? So less than 5 cm is this one. So let's form an equation, form an inequality, this value less than 5. Okay, so the same thing as well, 30 we move it to the right side, and we apply log for both sides to pull down the T. Okay, and then we move this to the right side. Okay, so this one is a very common mistake for students here. Students will forgot to change the sign because this value is actually negative. So I have to let you know, yeah, for log values, if the value here, let's say x lah, x if it's less than 1, it will be negative. So it will be hard for students to catch because this one appears to be positive, but technically if you you type this into your calculator, you will get negative value. Okay, so x less than 1 is negative, x equals to 1 is 0, x more than 1 is positive. So this is the one we need to take note. Okay, this one, x less than 1 is negative, so we need to change the sign. Right, so back to this one. So this one we just need to plug it into our calculator and we'll get T is more than 8.02. But this one is how many minutes, right? So we need to find the smallest whole number which is more than this value, okay, which is 9. Right, so T equals to 9 minutes. Alright, so this is the end of the all you need to know for logarithms video. So I hope you all maybe have helped you all revise, or also maybe you have learned something new from this video, and you have any further questions regarding this chapter, feel free to put your questions in the comment section. And for those who are having SPM right now, I wish you all the best, and also stay healthy lah, because this is a crucial time for y'all. And also thank you so much y'all for watching, and the new video will be focusing on Kelantan paper 2 questions, which is highly demanded, right? So I'll try my best to finish the video and share to y'all lah. Okay, so if you feel this video is beneficial to you, please give a like, subscribe and share, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye bye.